It's January 20th, 2019. The super blood wolf moon, full moon, and eclipse is happening soon. I don't know exactly when, but it's funny because I just calculated, as I usually do, things, and I calculated the super blood wolf moon is at 888. And that has this, like, I mean, it's the Lion's Gate and a bunch of other alignment sort of things. So it's kind of funny. It's like the wolf, the lion, the beast. This whole chapter, or whatever you want to call it, post, has to do with 666 being obviously the formula of the evolution, as well as the origin of species, which the title is basically a little longer. Let's see. Yeah, on the origin of species. But if you look at the title generally on as it's printed on most books, it's, you know, the origin of species. And it's just a weird coincidence because people again have this like problem with the fact that there's Teth and Tau, or Cheth and Gimel, or Samek and Shin, or even Vav for F instead of Pe, which is P, because A, B, C, D, E, F is 6. Kind of like ABC, or Aleph, Beth, Gimel, even though Cheth sometimes can be used. Or just, again, taken into consideration, realizing that when you look at these codes, these differences or nuances stand out, such as in the circle, where there's 2 sounds for the C, and Tau, Hey, Hey, Cheth, Yod, Resh, Gimel, Lamed, Hey would be the circle. And so it's just funny because this full moon, the whole circle, it's all about the effulgence, or the radiant. The radiant being obviously descriptive of the sun or sunlight, but also, you know, like quadrant, the radiant in terms of like where it's radiating to, the whole magnetic energy center and the XYZ or field. It's like the nuclear radiance or radiation or whatever you want to think of it as, even though it's really just like magnetic, the magnetic energy center or field. And again, it's kind of complicated, I guess, because I just go, like, having gotten over the fact, like, if you just, again, apply it and get over, like, the doubt, then you can actually start using it. And I guess, what was I trying to... I was thinking of something to say about that. How, I don't know, it's almost like so clear and so simple that it's like, what the fuck, how? Like this, the super blood wolf moon. I'm like, that when those things, when you calculate them and they add up and it's perfect, you have to like do it multiple times and you're like, holy fuck, is this really that? You know, and so when it is an alignment and you mention it, people think, oh, you're just making it equal that. Because obviously the the evolution with just Teths would be 275. And so, like, I have that in that file, and then I have with a Tau also the evolution. And so it's basically, yeah, what I was wanting to say is that it suggests like connections. It's suggestion and sympathy, I guess, and that's kind of like how ideas are developed and converge and emerge. So again, it's like there's notation in music. Like I found this book for $2 yesterday, Perspectives on Notation and Performance. And it's funny, the cover looks like it's got like a... It reminded me of the Samael sigil or whatever. But it's kind of different. But it's a bunch of different essays on musical notation, but it also calls it graphical language. And again, graphical, or with a gimel, graphical is 333, and that's kind of like the whole sign language, yeah, 222, which are veves or vevers, vever, and acoustics, I guess with gimels again. So yeah, obviously it's not really cherry picking because you have to take them all into account, because there will be things relating to this as well and the differences and all that. So again, it takes cognition to realize it. Cognition with a gimel. So, but then again, like when you, what was a good example that came to mind earlier? It'll come to me. But, because it takes into account like all those. And again, matrices, that uses the cheth. But matrices are basically like fields of data. And classification, yeah, I believe it was this. How classification is 333, which is also le vivre. Forgot how it's spelled. Yeah. The viper in French, which again, the abyss and all that. This is a very gnashing of teeth, like hellmouth number, because again, Quran's on, the gatekeeper, the time alignments and all that, the dream time, also the Nachtmar, the nightmare in German, the root, like when you look up the etymology of nightmare, it's Nachtmar. And again, it's just all these little, it reminds me of like the off notes of these notes, how when you look at the field of notes, there's like slight variations, but it makes this field of potential. And so obviously the sound or the meaning comes from the rhythm and the like interconnection between the various notes. Like a single note, like this book even talks about it, how it's like a holon or a hologram, because it's all the beginning and the end and the middle, it's all interconnected. And again, quantum is 212, quantum, and then logic is 121, so quantum logic is 333. And again, it's like it's the Higgs boson and CERN in Geneva. So it's a very like nuclear number, and again, hidden variables. I've said all this before, but again, it helps to, or hidden variable, it helps to go over this stuff and let it further interconnect and become more spontaneous, I guess, and more tightly knit. Because that's really what this whole thing comes down to, is it's like a spider web metaphor in both the cyber sense as well as the psychic sense, or just mental field. And what was another? Oh yeah, this book, The Act of Creation by Arthur Kessler, is a really good book in regards to all this. So I haven't even read this freaking post yet. This stuff has all like come I love the way in which books come about, like at the right time, because I just found my saxophone from like middle school, and I was reading. I was like, I forgot completely how to read the notes, and then I find this book on musical notation, and I was like decoding various things about it. It has all these graphs. It talks about basically, yeah, the graphical language, but also the digitalization, and like how a lot of it's based on chance now rather than actual composition, which again, compose is 333. And yeah, this whole fucking Kabbalah of 9 chambers, it gets like it's I guess what's hard to understand is how redundant it seems, because it's all like, but what the thesis or the hypothesis hypothesis, what's that? So sometimes, yeah, you have to like, check yourself sometimes, make sure because I type a little too fast. The hypothesis, and I mean that goes for anything, but again with the matrices and the blueprinting of a hypothesis, and what I've applied this whole concept to is the idea of if you decode plants and chemicals, and it's weird how much our instinct, pretty much like how spot on our linguistic instinct is in terms of the mathematical properties of it. That's what I'm trying to show and say and analyze. And again, classification is 333. Analysis is 222. There's a lot of very simple things. Again, 444 is hierarchy, which Arthur Koestler talks a lot about. And his whole theory of holons and holism, the holon, it's funny because that quality seems to me to be Kether, like Ketheric, or of Kether, relating to Kether, how it's like, it's that reductive function. It's very clear, and so it's hard to really state or put your finger on, but it's that unifying factor that's within, like, the turtles all the way up, turtles all the way down, which is funny because a friend of mine sent me an email about that on accident at 3:33 and pointed it out. And it's like very fitting. So all these alignments, it's very, and as I've said, with the tau, the alignment with 2 taus, it's like that higher octave of, the possibility of the alignment. There's no other, letters that would make it higher in there. You could have it as the alignment. And so like any other thing that would equal that has 2 teths would also imply it being related to 999. And so there's these like higher and lower octaves, because again, like when you take the tau or the teth and give it a tau, it's 608, and 608 has a lot of resonances with 999, and like 536 is the less than 555. So you can go look at 536 and apply the, and it's like the one I, the Lovecraftian Kabbalah, and again, because the Necronomicon in Greek is 555, fractals, all these different subjects, like even the fictional universes can overlap, and so that's why the value of ideas and concepts, literally the value of them, can yield further, meaning, I guess, like deeper meanings. And I don't know, it's just weird how in denial people are about this. That's why I pretty much decided to just say fuck it and like use it and keep going and spiral onward, I guess. So let's get to this. Because I know, this video is going to be short, but I wanted to fill it with more like dialogue and what I think about and what's been going on. Hey, someone's from Chicago. I just recently went to Chicago, which is like the farthest, most north I've ever been, to visit somebody. I didn't get to go like explore, but probably wouldn't have been that smart anyway. Alright, so this post was published Saturday, February 14th of 2015, and I said, the most recent posts and the closely following subsequent posts after this one are part of a series of expositions primarily focusing on the central formula of the beast and man, 666. So yeah, I really honed in on this number like more and more to the point where in 2017 I tried to make a point to like use every month to really like dig what was available within this number and the knowledge that it's revealed to me. But this number has long been clouded by a shroud of negative attributions, and rightly so, being that it is a number of the power of knowledge, i.e. gnosis. However, corruption has now grown as a result of this hermetic seal. So the, ignorance of it, to not know. And it is time the key to this seal is applied to make open the floodgates of that which this number conceals. While there is a deep fascination with this number in not so particularly insightful of ways, it is very fascinating, and so please bear with me as I endeavor to reveal what I have found about this number using the Hebrew-English gematria formula, which I have found to be the key of it all, mentioned in Liber El Vel Legis, which equals 666. And again, so Liber AL Vel Legis is 667, which has its own one-up Kolel quality of, again, comprehension, cohesion, evolution. Unlock the key of it all, but not now, is also 666. See Liber AL chapter 3, verse 13, which says, but not now, and future materials. So again, relating to the eon of Maat, or the future eon, the unfolding of the coil. It may appear to one who does not have the grace of a personal experience of creating a database from the ground up, again, ground is 333, out of nothing with all the experiential connections that are formed in the process. So yeah, again, like if you didn't create a database and see how these concepts slowly do emerge, then it's gonna look, it won't be clear to you. It'll just be noise, is the only way I can pretty much explain it. It's kind of like music. If you don't understand what's even going on or being said or where it's coming from, you won't even know what the fuck you're listening to. Out of nothing with all the experiential connections that are formed in the process, that the wide range of possible words and phrases that value to this number in Hebrew English gematria must be some kind of trick in which to make any word or phrase enumerate to this. But this is simply not so in the fact that most are simple in their enumeration, such as sum itself, or samek, vav, and mem final, as if it were illustrating the act of calculation. And I also wanted to make a point that analytical engines, some of the first computers and calculators, is also 333. Each word is definite in its value, with the only potential differences arising from the transference of certain letters, which many words cannot do, as in the case of T being taken as Teth or Tau, S as Samek or Shin, and C as Gimel or Cheth. Sometimes even Kaf or Kaf, as in K or Q, as a hidden extension. So again, and that goes for pay or Zodi as X is what I generally use because it's the most fitting. But these few modifications also do not account for the fact that particular numbers have a certain general marked quality. And when comparing numbers such as 666 to 888, noticeable differences occur, some even being explicit, such as 888 being the value of the admonition to decode the codes and decode the things that equal 666 in particular, as it says to in Revelation, so as to have a firm grasp of what it conveys, which is that it is the psychological codebook of the human psychological system. Remember, 666 is Hafren, the mental map, the logical mind. While 666 has all the hallmarks of being in the cube of the Kabbalah, 888 is symbolic of that which is beyond it, outside of space-time, symbolized by the triple hourglass figure. So again, Jesus being like symbolic of the great magician in a lot of ways, who's transcended again with the cross and the cube, the space-time continuum itself. It recently occurred to me after beginning to read Charles Darwin's The Origin of Species, which I finally obtained in a nicely illustrated version, that entering certain significant words or phrases may show interesting results, like from the book itself. So I've started to decode tons and tons of books and subjects, and it helps me to see how it all overlaps. Or not, doesn't, like, I try not to overlap it all. I try to keep it separate and organized, but it does help you to see connections where otherwise, like, it's not like that they don't exist. They do. They just, again, you have to find the right relationships and the timings and the spacings in the form of gematria, being as how the book of Revelation says this is the number of the beast and a man, or mankind in general, the human anthropos. The human anthropos. So, and being the value of the work which a man wrote about, the evolution of man from beast. Again, certain of these mysterious geometrical keys are not obtainable through merely traditional methods of Kabbalistic analysis, such as using only Hebrew or not considering the potential values, using other formulas, so like even applying it to the Greek or transliterated, like even Tibetan mysticism. And so too, modern physical science cannot break new ground until it adopts a wider scope of being to adapt its learning curve of certain other more subtle perspectives. So again, this is so simple, and yet it's like it's under people's nose, over their head, just like the MSI song, stupid MF. For in the chance shape of the letters and their position to one another, in these are mysteries that no beast shall divine. It is the new currents that are channeled and developed over time through language that bring revelation and innovation. And I said this, and I didn't even know of time binding or Alfred Korzybski yet. And so the bringing up of past atavisms or stores of primordial potential to galvanize with our technological advancement is so crucial as to better guide it without underlying influences going unseen, unused, or inverted, like how things are being used against us, our own jobs. The mysteries which no beast shall divine are the deeper degrees of initiation, or the higher rungs of the ladder. I guess it goes both ways, though. Which are gained by only those who can read the true messages of which the symbols, numbers, and letters of the gateposts are but keys. So yeah, like all this is just a map for something much a higher sight. The man on the computer is not the final stage in this evolution, the computer is. But, that's one timeline, the gray alien timeline, so to speak. Again, I think the gray alien is a metaphor for our mechanicalness, because again, mechanicalness, a Gurdjieff term, is the gray alien, and future self. So that's a possibility, like becoming more mechanical, robotic, transhuman, or we could be like, it could be more organic. That's kind of what I think that's really what I say. Like, I'm not anti-transhumanism. I'm anti-dependence on technology, because that becomes a feedback, like a redundant paradox. Like, because you're going to have to keep, fixing and creating the technology. And, you could create some sort of self-replicating and advancing code, but I think it'll see us as kind of like a parasite. Okay, so I've already went into some perspective on the nature of both astral, metaphysical, and artificial clothothic intelligence in the factors of balance, but here I will go into the ontological physics of the logoic superstructure, or in other words, the natural patterns within the linguistic matrix that comprises the operating system of the westernized, technologically augmented human plus, or H plus, human plus being the designation of the human who is now in the stage signified by the man on the computer, far different than his predecessors in his mental capacity, but much more blinded and tied down in a way most unfortunately cannot understand. Again, dependency and denial, and uncontrollable currents of chaos. Now that we have entered into a phase where profound knowledge can be extrapolated by virtually anyone with the right directive and abilities, we will be tapping into forces and knowledge that were previously left unknown, which of course has its pros and cons. The inevitable question arises as to how much advancement is necessary for a species to truly advance if such technology can effectively displace one from their unique conditions altogether. Or, put another way, how much are we willing to change and call upon if it means destroying ourselves for something else altogether to take its place in the name of it being better? And who is to be the decider of these things? By unveiling the most despised of numbers in a way that has yet to be, in the course of any literature I've come across, I have come to find a trove of knowledge that can only be disseminated, let alone integrated for myself, in a format that makes the knowledge itself understandable to those who may not be very deep into the base, hard information. And it is also a way for myself to process this and slowly make the connections that I do in the course of researching it all deeper. So yeah, like writing this and rereading it is like the only format, because in doing so, it helps me to like see these things that I didn't see. And so like I can add more data, but then also find where I was wrong about, in my thinking about it, or my approach, because usually it's limited until you get more information, and then it's like, oh, this helps this, and, I don't know. Many different subjects are bound up in this number. Note the Hebrew kishurn, binding, typing, linkage, computers, hypertext is 666. Again, like the spider writing. Using this number, we can perfect human evolution because it contains within it the central core processing unit of the computer cube matrix. It is literally the secret core code unveiled, or again, the source code. 666 being the core of the stone, or cornerstone. In Hebrew, the Fana Larash, or Pe Nun He Lamed Resh Aleph Shin. It also makes me think of the lodestone, or the magnet. As Grant notes in the ninth arch, 666 is 1 through 36, the number of the sapphire stone, symbolic of the perfect stone of the perfect ion, or perfection, the eon of Maat, the tree of life folded up into the point, or the sphere. 36 is related to the full circle of the zodiac, and is the number of the way, i.e. of Lamb. These all veil the completion of the circle, or egg, time, which breaks anew as a spiral, the spiral call emanating from the egg, talked about in the wisdom of Silba, Silba, again, being the nest of the egg, 333, and the egg being pretty much the seed. The 9 numbers inside the egg gestate in 666 and break anew in 667, the gate of the sun. Ha Kokina Jaine, or the Scarlet Woman, who signifies the daughter aspect of the final He, presided over by the goddess Maat. Again, so 667 is connected to 107, which also, again, veils that like secret 17th Kala from the egg, whose terrestrial avatar Vahana is transmitting this gnosis through ItsAllinTheEgg.blogspot.com. And yeah, when I calculated this, it was one of its values is 667, which is kind of on the ace of discs as 666 plus the 1. So the sun and the moon, which I guess is fitting. So yeah, like, I know this is a weird, I mean, all my posts are weird. They're not written to my liking or standards, really, but so I know they're not going to be written to anyone's standards. But I don't know. It's still a summary of what I think can be used, or how this can be used. Because again, like, I don't even want to pull up all the different things I found about anti-venom and the science of that. Like when you just decode the process, it's just funny. Like, what is it? It was just today. Reverse engineer the venom. This 999, and that's this serpent link number. It's a very obviously, it's like the penultimate reptile or reptilian or ophidian number. And there's a lot more to all this, but I don't know. The alignments are like really coming in strong. Like the other day, I found the wonderful Wizard of Oz, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, the full title, which is funny because 777 is the shells, or the world of shells, Olam HaKlaphoth, the fire of hell with a tau. So the Klafothic, the broken shells of the Klafothic tunnels. So again, these mental connections, these hidden connections, the esoteric connections. Liber 777, pretty much like, it's the prototype of all this. But that's the thing, like, 777 can be updated to 999 in the sense that there's a shit ton more. And I'm not going to open the file. It'll be released eventually, but so much is added to it every day. And it's got to be organized. I've got to, like, consciously sift through all this. And eventually it'll be all, like, there'll be a lot more. It'll all be worth it. And it'll be all nice and organized, and people will be like, how the fuck? Like, today I was reading about, what's his name? Louis Pasteur, 777. He's the guy who created pasteurization and vaccines, and pretty much relates to the whole, again, the anti-venom subject. But what was I going to say about that? It's Pasteur 777. There's a lot of connections in it. I mean, it helps, though, like, when you decode these things, it helps to have this, it's like a memory, it's mnemonics. It's a mnemonic device. Mnemonic with an S, mnemonics, is 333. And I finally got, what is it? I finally got The Art of Memory by Francis Yates, which talks about, like, the Kabbalah and all this stuff, but it doesn't go into the gematria. So I like to collect, like, books. I like to collect books that kind of, like, are that bridge leading up to these sort of revelations. And yeah, there's more I could say. I'll just say it in the next post as I go.